it because it's the same print screen that I used in the launch. And it really is exciting to be part of this mentoring and coaching program that brings together the LCE and UWTSD, and I really appreciate the chance to work alongside everyone in the LCE. So before we start, if you could have a piece of paper and a writing implement, as in a pencil or a pen, just for a task that's coming up a little bit later on. And I can see that people are working separately. So there's a task coming up that we may have to ask you to do later if we can't sort that you can work together in any way. So this is where the experimenting comes in, because we may try to do something with breakout rooms, but if it doesn't work, then we'll look at working on that in your own time. On that as well, just to say that I have recorded this PowerPoint presentation, and I have asked Sharon to put that on the Padlet. So you should be able to find that on the Padlet if you want to go back to use this presentation for yourselves. And every slide has been narrated by myself. So you'll be able to hear my dulcet tones in your own time if you so wish. Okay, so I just wanted to share with you again the overview of the program so that we can reorientate ourselves, and I've highlighted that first bullet point for this morning's session, because we are working at the moment in our workshops that will develop confidence of yourselves, and then more importantly the cooperating teachers in mentoring and coaching skills. So within that overarching aim, really we're looking at developing and sort of revisiting skills that you already have and you've demonstrated in your surveys, that you have confidence yourselves in these skills, but it's passing that information and supporting the cooperating teachers in developing their confidence in that. So hopefully what you see today and in the workshops will be useful to use with those practicing teachers as well. So if we look then at the project outline, as I say, we're working within these series of online workshops now that will build then to us having a conversation about our principles and then the skills that go alongside those principles, and then to start introducing this project to others within the pilot. So introducing that the mentoring skills to the student teachers first of all, and then to the cooperating teachers, all in advance of that placement activity. And then building our program of regular seminars so that we can discuss amongst ourselves as mentors, as tutors, and as student teachers, the way that mentoring is developing and the way that some of the skills that we've introduced then or reinvigorated have had an impact on the way that the student teachers are developing. And something I picked up in your surveys was that direct link between mentoring and the progress and the success of the student teachers that you are supporting within your programs. So in terms of the outline, then we're at stage 1, but it's an important stage for us all. Okay, so here we are. We're looking today at effective listening, and lots of you highlighted effective listening in the effective mentor word cloud that you developed in the launch. So this is it. It's really interesting because the words expand. The more people that use the same words, the bigger the font. And so it's really clear that being patient is the key characteristic of an effective mentor. But you see here that there are lots of references to being attentive, being a good listener. It says good listener, visibly attentive, ability to communicate, ability to listen, empathetic, approachable, a listener, good listener. And so those terms you recognized from the launch as being really important aspects. That was before we talked about what was going to be part of the program. So it's clear to me that these good listening skills are at the heart of your understanding of what a good mentor is. Okay, so just to kick off, because in the survey, we asked you to look at the differences between mentoring and coaching. We use these terms quite often in the same breath. But it's interesting to recognize the differences as well as the similarities. So from your surveys, there were lots of references to mentoring being about two people working together with the purpose of personal and professional development. This is key, I think. Somebody said an experienced teacher trains and counsels a practicing teacher. So the student teacher in my institution, we call practicing teachers student teachers, to show that balance between university and school experience. Oh, that jumped. And then there was also reference to mentoring being about a trust-based relationship, and words such as support, guiding, modeling. Modeling is a good word there to represent mentoring. And then when it came to coaching, there were more references to guiding, facilitating self-directed learning, supporting, monitoring, the showing the way for an individual. So you're recognizing that there are differences as well as similarities between mentoring and coaching. I just wanted to give you a few definitions, and obviously you're not going to have time to read these in depth, but I'll sort of highlight the main aspects of these slides, and then you can go back to these then in your own time and use them if you want to. So mentoring occurs when one person shares knowledge, skills, and experience. And so the experienced teacher supports a less experienced teacher, is that element that comes out there. And mentoring is a brain to pick, an ear to listen, and a push in the right direction. Whereas coaching is a development of their skills and knowledge so that their job performance and enjoyment of their role improves, and it's a sharing partnership. So there's more equality between the parties who are in a coaching relationship than in a mentoring relationship. And so it's about sharing ideas and experiences with equals in an attempt to work things out for oneself. And that came through in your comments in the survey. But interestingly, with our role as a tutor or as a mentor, we are probably applying some of the coaching skills as well as the mentoring skills, because we're working alongside that individual and we recognize that they need to be able to work independently. So maybe at the beginning of a journey, we're very much using mentoring, whereas by the end of the teaching experience, we're hoping that the students will be developing their own understanding of what they need to do, and then we're holding their hand and we're helping them to make decisions and suggest things for the next steps. Okay, so this is where now we may have a little try at sharing some audio. So what I wanted you to do is to be able to share your memories with your colleagues. It may be that you think about your experiences, and then you maybe jot some things down, and you maybe can jot those things into the chat so we can see if you have any experiences of either being a mentor or a coach, or being mentored or coached, and sort of thinking of sort of memorable ideas rather than sort of trying to think of everything that you remember about being a mentor. So maybe mentoring somebody and seeing that spark or that light bulb moment, or maybe being mentored or coached by somebody and equally feeling empowered by that. Or I'm talking about the positive experiences. Have you had any less than positive experiences of mentoring and coaching? So I'm going to give you just a minute or two to jot some things down. And if you can put some things into the chat, that would be really good.
You can use the WhatsApp group or the Zoom chat, whatever works for you on your device, okay? I'm going to share one in the chat on Zoom.
Because I'm screen sharing, I don't think I can see. No. Can I?
No, not when you screen share. No, I'll read
so
them out.
Yeah. Let me know, Sharon.
Okay, I've shared mine. Hopefully we can get a few more coming through the chat. Or if you'd prefer to speak, guys, you can unmute yourselves and speak, but have a little think first. We've not got, I can't see any dots or any action, guys. Oh no, I can, and Tate is typing. So one person is typing at the moment. Does anyone want to actually tell us instead of typing? Maybe that might be easier for you, but you need to unclick the microphone on your screen. Hello, May. I don't believe you're all shy. All right, we've got one in the chat. I can also see that I think May Kath has fallen out of the meeting. So she might need to come back in. And Tate Latswara, I got hired because my mentor collaborated with the principal to get all my papers done. Okay, so that's a positive experience. Excellent. You hope that mentors are going to be your allies and support you in your professional and personal development. I've written one in the chat. I don't know if you can see it, where it says my school mentor when I was on teaching practice, which was many moons ago, was not a very good teacher or mentor. And this was very frustrating, but I took it as an experience of what not to do. And it actually made me a better teacher because I'd seen what it means to be a bad practitioner and also a bad manager and bad mentor. I think he did get sacked in the end. Loki sharing one here. I've done coaching after a lesson presentation of my student teachers, listening to them and how they thought what would be their way forward. Brilliant. Okay. And there is a subtle difference between that sharing of advice and practice other than guiding completely. And I think we do interchange those roles constantly. And even now, I think in this context, we are coaching more than mentoring you for sure. Anybody else got anything to share? I'm just going to send Catherine a message because she's fallen out of the group. Yeah. All right, she's trying to connect again. Okay. Okay, May Swalele, experiences with mentoring, mentee over dependence. Yes, very good, very interesting. Mentee not willing to participate or open up. Mentee interested on marks, not constructive comments. Crying when given advice. As mentee, my mentor, I'm a good listener, but not willing to be observed. Would just give marks without observations, not helping. Yes, that's a tricky one. Very, we're going to come across all these challenges, and I'm hoping we can have these sessions as a forum to discuss ways forward here. And I think, fingers crossed, we have some level of normality next year where your students are back in and going out on teaching practice, that we can help create a guidance for those student teachers, because they really need to be able to participate in the process, and almost having them sign a letter of agreement would encourage them to understand what their role is, because if they're not going to take constructive criticism, if they're not going to engage, they can't enter a profession in a good way, can they? So that openness and transparency needs to happen right from the beginning. I'm guessing Kath is still trying to join. We'll just see if there's any more comments, any other reflections. I'm just going to tell her you may need to restart. Nothing coming into. Oh, right, the internet's gone. Restarting modem. Join on phone. This is the same as happened last time, guys, with technology. I'm just coaching Maykath now on what to do next. Right, what I'll do, I will get up the slideshow and hopefully I can share that with you, and we'll go on to the next one. I just need to find it. Bear with me. Are we on this one? Let's have a look. Not that page. No. All right, just bear with me, folks. We did mean to troubleshoot this, and it hasn't quite worked. Ah, right, I've got it. Okay. It's interesting that the technological problems are coming from this side. Okay, hopefully everybody can see that, and hopefully I can change slides. There we go. All right, just bear with me whilst I try to find it. Okay, right. I'm hoping everybody can see that. I can't put it on full slide because I won't be able to see if Kath comes back in the meeting. Okay, so let's just have a little look at the differences. I'll read them all out just in case it is a bit too small on your phone. So what are the differences between mentoring and coaching? So the mentoring is looking at the career of their mentee. They are looking at the bigger picture, whereas coaching is going to be focusing on certain goals or objectives for that certain period of time. I think Kath's trying to get back in. Sorry, guys, let me just sort this out. Trying to multitask is quite difficult. Why is that not working? No. All right, we got chat. Okay, only see Loki's response, not others. I don't know why. Oh, okay. That was just on the chat, guys. Okay, so back on the mentoring side, the mentor solves problems. Sorry, Kath is trying to tell me what's happening here as well. Knock off. Okay, so the mentor is the problem solver, and then if you're coaching somebody, you work out the problems together. And as you said in the chat earlier, some mentees are not willing, or they want to be spoon-fed. There's an over-dependence where you solve all their problems. I guess the time is moving from you solving problems to co-sharing problems. Next one is the mentor leads, and in a coaching relationship, the coach leads as well. And then if you're looking at mentor and telling, they're offering answers, they're offering experience and wisdom, whereas the coach asks. And this is going to be one of the separate sessions, I think, that Kath will lead, where they are asking exploratory questions to help the person who's being coached come up with their own answers rather than being spoon-fed. We use that term a lot in the UK about over-dependency as being spoon-fed by somebody rather than problem solving. So back on the mentoring side, the mentor is selected, so they need to be the best fit for the role. Often in some circumstances, it really needs to come down to personality as well. You need to be a good listener, as you've all identified. So a reluctant mentor wouldn't be a very good one, which I think was the case in my teaching practice. And also the coach is selected, again, the best fit for the individual who's going to be coached. I think the word coach is really good here because it does make you think of sport, which again makes you realize that it needs to be the best fit for the team. And then the last one on the table is regular formal meetings and informal encounters for mentoring. So there needs to be a formularity to it, but there's going to be lots of conversation and lots of informal moments. Whereas with coaching, there needs to be specified meetings. Often with coaching, you wouldn't be with that person all the time, so it has to be quite structured. Okay, let me just go back to the screen for a second so I can see what's happening with Kath. Oh, interesting. She's asking you to do a task. So before she comes back in the meeting, we do apologize about this, guys. She's going to ask, we want you to do a little task that we're going to help mentor and coach you with. Now, this is going to be a challenge because I know nobody in Lesotho likes drawing, okay? So on a piece of paper, I want you to draw a house, okay? And then when you've drawn it, I want you to hold it up to the screen. All right, does everybody understand that? So don't worry about it being rubbish, okay? But on a piece of paper, draw a house, and then I want you to hold it up to the screen, okay? I give you a couple of minutes to do that. I should do the same as well, really, shouldn't I? whilst you're drawing, good people, I'm going to read out something from the chat. Okay, another example. My first week in teaching as a student teacher, it was so stressful and I wished I could withdraw, but very fortunately I got a very good mentor who was a good listener. She was so patient, approachable. Through her outstanding support, I enjoyed my teaching practice and became a confident student teacher. Now, you all know how important that is. That's a make or break moment, isn't it, for a student? Different to my situation where it just made me be better at what I was doing. I think especially in vulnerable situations, some students will leave if they've got a bad mentor. Okay, what do we draw? Let me write it down. A house. Hello, Meloki, I can see you now. Ah, brilliant. Wonderful. What I'm going to do a little, once everyone's holding them up, I'm going to do a screenshot and put it into WhatsApp so we can see everybody else's, okay? So is everybody else ready to put them up? You need to put your screen on. All right, Kath's coming back in now. Just Melo, give you wait for a sec and then we'll do it all at the same time, okay? If we just wait for a second. Right, so once you've done the picture, I want you to hold it up to the screen so that everybody can see it, and I'm going to take a photograph. And we got Kath back as well now.
Sorry, I'm sitting on the modem now.
So, no worries, May. We talked through some examples and we went through the differences between mentor and coach. And now I'm waiting for everyone to hold up their picture of a house. What I thought I'd do, I'll screenshot it.
Yeah.
And then everyone can have a copy. It will have a picture of that. I'll put it in the chat. Because we've run out of time a bit, maybe we'll do that as an individual thing. But not everybody's holding them up yet. People are being shy. I'm going to put it in the WhatsApp chat as well. Okay. Oh, actually, people are putting it in the WhatsApp chat. Okay. All right. Maybe actually do that. That would be helpful. Okay. Please photo and put them here.
Oh, well done. Yeah.
Shall we ask them to do that as maybe homework, Kath? So then we can move on to the next bit.
Absolutely fine.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, goes. So I need to share my screen again now.
Oh, I think, oh yeah, I've stopped sharing. Okay. Let me just double check that. Yeah, you can. Okay, so photograph your drawing, folks. Put it in the group WhatsApp, and then we'll come back to that shortly, okay?
Okay, why is it on that one then?
Oh, it stayed there. So if you move it,
okay, good. Okay, so with your images there now of your drawing, if you were to provide some support for other people who've done the same drawing, you'd use this scaffold to show your strengths, the weaknesses, how to improve, and the mark out of 10. So in the same way that you would be looking at the student teacher in the classroom and giving them a score or a grade or whatever, I think people mentioned grading in the pre-survey, which obviously has to happen in order to know that the students are making progress. But you need to be aware that when you're giving feedback, if you're giving feedback and a grade, then are they more interested in the grade than they are in the actual feedback? So in the same way, I've asked you to do a task. You've done the task beautifully. You've shared, some of you, the braver of you have shared your pictures with each other. And then if you were giving feedback, it would be useful to know how you felt providing the feedback to somebody else, but also in receiving that feedback. Because by knowing what the students feel, you'll recognize that feeling. And I know lots of you have said that you're looking at developing a relationship with the student teacher and the mentor is really important. And so building that relationship and knowing what makes people tick is really important. And maybe just tweaking the way that we work with our students can have a big impact on getting them to see how things will improve by picking on particular aspects, focusing on aspects of their practice. Something that you would probably have done if you'd given that feedback was to judge mentor. So because you had nothing else to go on, because I gave you quite an open task, draw a house. I didn't say to you, draw a house that has 4 windows and a garden, and so you had no criteria for knowing what needed to go into that house to make it successful. So in that way, sometimes when students are being observed in the classroom, they have that same sort of feeling. I need to do what the mentor is expecting of me, but I'm not sure what I'm focusing on. So you may have been looking, and I'm looking at your pictures now and thinking, I'm glad I didn't do that task because they're all very good. And you're you might have the same sort of situation where you're comparing what the student teacher is doing in comparison to your own practice. And of course, if we're talking about the cooperating teachers with the student teachers, we're then recognizing the difference in experience that can have an effect on how that feedback is provided. Okay, which is then why we think about listening. And so this is a task, again, that I would suggest that you do as some sort of follow-up. And it would be very, very interesting to know how you felt about doing this task, because when we ask students to speak about how they're getting on, and in our practice in UWTSD, what happens is that the mentor will observe a lesson, and then they'll sit with the student teacher and they'll have a conversation. And although the conversation should focus on what the student feels is important and how they feel things have gone, quite often it becomes more what the mentor has seen, because they are sharing their experience with the student teacher. So this is a way of encouraging the student teacher to take some ownership. And it's also a way of developing that relationship where the mentor listens to what the student teacher is saying about their own progress, and then working from that progress point in order to support them more individually. So if you have a chance to do this, then what you will notice, I think, is that speaking about your strengths and your challenges for a minute each will take quite some thinking about. So we are articulate, we can put together our ideas and we can speak quite confidently about strengths. Maybe we feel more confident about our challenges because we can all speak about those in more detail. But when we ask student teachers to speak about their strengths and challenges, they have to have time maybe to consider what those are in order to be able to articulate that clearly. And then this, for your cooperating teachers, is a really interesting task, because you're listening and feeding back what has been said can be quite challenging. So have a little go at that and see that when you're listening to the student themselves, rather than thinking about what they've said and putting it, sort of thinking about what you want to say to them, that actually listening to them is really important. So in order to be an effective listener, and this is some of these things came up in the word cloud and in your survey: taking notice, showing interest, eye contact, not folding your arms, looking away, doing other things, paraphrasing, putting into your own words what the individual has said, avoiding opinion or judgment, being just listening and accepting what they're saying to you, even if sometimes they say something that you weren't expecting them to say. They are not focusing on the things that you feel are important to them. And then there's quite a lot of power in somebody remembering what somebody else has said. So if that means taking some notes, having some sort of form of note of what has been said, that's useful. So then you can feed back to those individuals what has been said. Okay, so when we're listening, we want to listen at either a deep or an effective level of listening. So in the task that we would have just completed, you would have been listening carefully because the purpose of your listening was to repeat and to paraphrase what has been said. If you get to the deep listening, when you're sitting with somebody in a room and you are really taking on board what they're saying, then you're not just listening to what they're saying, you're looking at their body language, you're looking at what they're not saying as well. And as tutors, we're really good at that. The only thing that holds us back from being good at that is maybe time spending with the individual to be able to give them the chance to share their thoughts and how they feel things are going. Okay, so just to give you some sort of pointers then towards paraphrasing and summarizing, these are things that you can look at in your own time again. But paraphrasing, repeating in your own words, can provide you with an opportunity to see if there is a lack of shared understanding. So sometimes what you think the student teacher is saying, because you're then putting your own experience into it, can be different from what the student teacher is actually saying. So by using things like, so you're saying that the pupils were well behaved. Can you give me some examples of that? If I'm hearing you correctly, you suggest that, and then you're going from you needing clarification for your own understanding, rather than what do you mean they were behaving properly? But hopefully you might get to that point where you recognize, or the student teacher recognizes for themselves, that what they've said isn't quite true. And they're clarifying sentence starters. So to help me understand, so what would you like to see? Show me what you mean by showing me in the pupil's work, or giving me concrete examples. Because sometimes at the end of a lesson, we know the same, that you feel a relief. Oh, it's worked. We've got to the end of that lesson, and you know, it's happened and it's been okay, rather than thinking through and focusing on particular aspects. We're just relieved that it's over. So if something is said and then you want to clarify that that's actually been said or that's actually happened, then check with evidence. And then deepening that shared understanding is important. Recognizing the importance of the relationship between the student teacher and the mentor, recognizing the importance of the student teacher having some responsibility and not expecting the mentor to tell them what to do next to improve. So that idea of evidence base, of giving examples, of asking the student teacher to open up the conversation, to listen to what they're saying, is really important, because then the onus, then the responsibility goes on to the student teacher rather than sitting with the mentor. Okay, and we have come to the end of that session, and I do apologize that my internet is less secure than internet across the world, but hopefully you'll have a chance to go through the tasks, particularly that paired task. You do need to have somebody to speak to. You don't have to have somebody who is a colleague to speak to. You can have somebody in your household to speak to, and you can talk to them and see how they respond in giving you that 1 minute summary of what you've said. And actually, it may be a good idea to have somebody who's not in education, because then they will be listening very carefully to what you say and feeding that back to you. So that might be a good task. Or ask somebody that does something different from you as their work, and ask them to speak about their strengths and challenges, and then you give that summary of what they've done. I think that task is a really useful task.
Can I jump in there? I've just shared that photo in the chat, and I think if you can do that, colleagues, I think it'd be really good if you could almost record a little bit of audio or make a little summary so that we can have that as part of our records and we can see what's happened, or hear what's happened. So I've just summarized, I've just put the slide in the chat there to focus you on that activity. Okay.
Yeah, it's very simple, and it is 3 minutes, but it is quite a powerful task. And then just to finish, then I just wanted you to think about the most significant thing that you've picked up from this session. Maybe the most useful skill that you have used or that you will use. The most difficult or challenging aspect to take on board, and then maybe the things you've improved the most and the things you'll need to remember. So some of those are more straightforward to answer than others, but this is an assessment for learning approach that that you can use with the students as well, and it can be used in the classroom because it just gives them the 5 fingers and something for each finger to recall what's happened in the session. And again, it would be useful in particular to know what else you were hoping to see in the session, or what we need to do next. We're going on to effective feedback next, giving feedback. And so we could still incorporate some listening activity into that session. And all I have to say now is thank you very much. I'm so sorry. Luckily, in your word cloud, you noticed the word patience as being the most important characteristic of a mentor, and you've demonstrated your patience in bucket loads this morning. So I do apologize for the dropout. That's the second time it's happened. I'll sit on the moment to start next time so that it doesn't happen again. And interestingly, Sharon and I were talking about my internet problems, and I was saying that they had been fixed, but obviously not today.
You want to stop sharing, Kath, so we can see if everybody can put their screens on quickly. If you've got any questions that you want to ask now, knock off your mic, but please do put your screen on so I can take a quick picture of everybody and we can say goodbye and leave you with your little task that we've put in the chat. So the listening, the paired task, and then the give me 5 reflections, I've put that in the WhatsApp group. So can you put your screens on if you can, guys, so we can see your beautiful faces this morning? That's the challenge of clicking the video picture. Any questions or comments, Me Loki or Me Swalele? You're first on there. Me Janki's there too. Oh yeah, let me.
Oh, you had problems as well. Oh, that makes me feel better.
I put the link to the recording of this and the slideshow that Kath's already done with the audio, so you've got both options. Okay. We're starting to see everybody. Anybody else going to put their screens on? I want to do a little screenshot if that's okay, folks. And we use Twitter over here to share our good practice, so I'm going to put it on Twitter if that's okay with everybody. There we go. Mima Sana's there. Right, I'm going to do a quick print screen. So big smiles, big smiles. Lovely. Beautiful. There we go. Right, we've got that. Okay, so let's use WhatsApp group for any follow-up, folks. And then if there's a problem with the next date, please let us know. So it was the 9th, Kath, was that right? 9th of November.
Yeah.
So until then, let's keep communicating and stay safe, everybody. And we'll see you soon. Okay, Rela boa.
Okay. Kiliboa.
Bye. I'll just let everybody go, Kath, and then
Somebody's asking for the tasks on WhatsApp.
Okay. I haven't put in the scaffolds in for the picture. Hang on, I've lost that. Okay, if you click leave meeting now, guys, or end, the red button down the bottom, leave, there should be an option.
Yeah, that's fine.
Will you write those, Kath? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let me share. I'll stop recording now, and that was saved.